Wow, $100,000 a month, you're rich. The money that you're making is going back into stock. You're not like just pulling out this like wads of cash. I will tell you there is a magic number, which is, in my opinion, is about...
Some days I wake up and I look at the ceiling and I'm like, why the f am I doing this? Knowing what you know now, would you buy a Hungry Jack's again?
Such a good question.
Just to confirm, you have never shared the product that helped you make $40 million.
Correct.
Can you tell me that product?
No, don't make me do it. Ladies and gentlemen, the product is...
Welcome to the Creative Grid, the podcast for creative entrepreneurs who are hungry to have more impact, make more money, and become successful in every area of life. I'm your host, Nelson, and your journey to mastering life and business begins in 3, 2, 1. Welcome, creative entrepreneurs and creative savages, to another episode of the Creative Grid. Today is a very exciting episode. We have an Amazon e-com expert, an 8-figure entrepreneur who has made over $40 million in sales. He's also a podcaster and the host of Amazon E-com Secrets. Please welcome the legend, the one and only, Matthew Fraser. Welcome to the podcast.
What up, Nelson? How are you, brother? Thanks for having me here.
Yeah, stoked to have you. Obviously, we met because we're currently producing his podcast through Vibes Creative. And as soon as I met him, dude, I love you. Like,
We connected.
We connected so well. The ops manager keeps telling me, you guys have a deep bromance and stuff. I'm like, this is my kind of people. This is our dream clients, you know, because Matthew, let me tell you, he's what I like to call an undiscovered diamond. And we get to be the vehicle for him to become ultra famous and get his message to a bunch of entrepreneurs out there. Your mission is so big as well that we just want to be a part of it, you know, and get to be the guys that said, yes, we got him.
And what's so awesome about today, especially, is I've become a TikTok sensation.
Just talking about that, literally, he just started going viral on TikTok with one of the videos. He's adding a bunch of followers. So
it's like followers by the second are just increasing, which is amazing. And now I don't really, I'm not really into TikTok per se, but of course it's a great avenue to help get the message out there, right? Something that I'd never even thought about was TikTok, but of course with your help, we're now doing the omnipresence across many, many channels. So it's just fascinating to see from the outside how this TikTok thing is going to explode. And we're only at the very, very early stages.
We just starting doing it. And it is crazy when you start to think in terms of every single follower is one person. You know, imagine if you put all those people in a room. It's 400 people, right? And then you do the same on a different platform. And then, you know, everything starts compounding on top of each other. You're like, holy shit, we have, 10,000 people. We have 100,000 people. Imagine putting all those people. This could fill a stadium when you start thinking from that frame of mind. How does someone makes $40 million?
Oh, God, think of that number. 40 million. I would never have thought I was going to get to 40 million. I mean, I think at the time when I first started this online journey back in sort of 2016, 100,000 a month would have been amazing. I thought that was like the pinnacle at the time too. So 40 million is extraordinary, but it was, I guess, right place, right time, great product, and things just, it was through COVID. So everyone was online. So, basically if you were online and you had an awesome product and right pricing, it was just everything because it culminated into this perfect storm for me as well. And I'm still selling that product now.
It's still going live.
It's still available.
Yeah, right.
I'm still selling it. So that 40 million, every so often is going up even more and more. Soon I'll be saying, Nelson, it's 50 million. Get it right.
Let me correct you there. You're missing 10 mil.
Yeah. Lazy 10 mil.
That's incredible. Let's just rewind back a little bit, right? Who was Matthew back in the day? How did everything start? Were you born in, in a lot of money? You had to pave your way to it. Tell me a little bit about younger Matthew.
So my parents, my dad was in the Air Force and my mother was stay at home up until we moved to Thursday Island. We lived in Penrith at the time. We moved to Thursday Island, which is a remote island in the Torres Strait. So I became an islander boy and literally was one of the only white kids on the island.
Yeah, that's what I'm picturing.
Yeah, it was awesome. And it was back in the days too when, no one locked their doors. I would be off on my bike just like riding around the island. My parents would have a clue where I was. And it's like a pretty decent island. It's got roads.
Yeah.
Okay. And so that was kind of my upbringing then. And we moved then down to Caboolture. My dad got transferred. He then moved from the Air Force into OTC, which is Overseas Telecommunications. So it does ship-to-shore communications. My mum then became a school teacher, grew up in Caboolture, went to high school, Wavell State High School. It was a great school. And the funny thing was, I was voted in year 12 most likely to succeed. And so now when people reach out to me from that era, they're like, Matthew, see, we always knew you were going to make it. Yeah. But there's different levels of making it, isn't there? So from there, I moved out of home. Now, this is the most important part. When I started working, I started odd jobs when I was probably 12, 10, doing lawn mowing, newspaper runs, that type of thing. But then I started working at Macca's, and that is where I met my wife, my now wife, at McDonald's. Now, we weren't hooking up. She was just another chick who worked at Macca's as well, right? And through a mutual friend, we became friends. We then moved out together when we were 18 to Clayfield in Brisbane. And then a friendship developed into a romance, and that's been it. But, that journey together, because back when we were around that age, sort of talking 18, 20, we said, hey, you know what we should do? We should buy a McDonald's store, because we were already indoctrinated into the McDonald's way. Yeah. And so Paula remained at Macca's and all the way through till she was about 29 years old. And I left Macca's when I was about 18 and went into other things, a whole range of other things, right? Which we can go into later if you want. But the dream was always this McDonald's store. And we didn't have any money. This was the problem, right? And so we thought, okay, we're going to knuckle down and we're going to go into property, build up enough money to then put that money to use into a McDonald's store in the future. So at 21, I bought my first property. Paula bought hers at around the same time. And by about 25, we owned $1 million house in a beautiful place in Brisbane. We had about 4 or 5 other investment properties. And then fast forward to sort of 2008 era, we were sort of making moves to buy this McDonald's store, a McDonald's store. And it got super, super political, even though Paula was in McDonald's system already and she'd basically been granted the rights to the next store from her owner. But as I said, super political, that all fell through. Then the next option came up. Now, at the time, the CEO of Hungry Jack's was former McDonald's. So he reaches out to Paula and says, hey, look, I've got a store that's available to buy. We want you in the system. So Paula was the one, right? I'm just on for the ride. We want you in the system. And it was down in South Tweed Heads. This is 2008. And then we took over the keys on February of 2009. And this was like, we thought our dreams had come true. This is for like basically nearly a decade. We'd wanted a McDonald's store because we thought this was our ticket to wealth. So keep in mind too, as young people, we were just building wealth, properties. I was working second jobs, and it was just about wealth creation. Fast forward to now, just on that note, I thought that everybody that came out of high school was focused on wealth creation. I just thought that. I thought people were reading books about how to create wealth, like Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and these types of things. It turns out, Nelson, that most people don't do that.
You say that, and I'm in the same level of surprise came to me, because as soon as I came out of university, I was like, how do I make millions?
Yes.
Like I literally finished becoming a dentist, and as soon as I step out, how do I make millions? How do I own a dental clinic? How does that happen? I need this amount of money. How do I get this money? I just started thinking how to make things possible.
Yeah.
You had a similar train of thought with that?
Well, I did, because I wanted things too. Like I wanted a Porsche and just material things, a nice house. And so the Hungry Jacks came through. Yeah, so we've now settled on this store. We thought we were awesome because I was only 29, Paula was 30. We thought, we've made it.
Yeah.
And the dream then became, how many more Hungry Jack stores can we possibly get? We'll have like, 10 stores. And then 1 year into that, that dream came crashing down. And this is a big, big lesson, and also a really big pivotal turning point in the trajectory of how life's gone. And what had happened was the government decided that now was the time to redo the highway, and the Hungry Jack store is basically just off the highway where the on and off ramps are. So as soon as the graders came out and the diggers and what have you, they started pushing the witches' hats out. Sales dropped 30%, just like boom. And we're like, oh. And we then just go into basically panic mode, and we're cutting everything we possibly could, like all the way down to like the outside music that plays. Like that's $30 a month, that's gone.
Gone, yeah.
So, and we're working in the store 24/7 as well, opening the store, closing the store, right? It was brutal stuff. But we thought, no, we'll just get through this period.
Yeah.
What happened was the bills just kept going. Yeah, bills kept going, and the debts start to accumulate, right? So like a tax debt and then a food debt. And we're like, we don't have the money to pay for these things. But we keep thinking, oh no, it'll end soon. The roadworks took 3 years. So it's a bit like now, Nelson, when you see these guys, like when they're doing trams, the light rail, for example, on the Gold Coast, right? All those businesses would have been decimated. Yeah, and there's not really any compensation.
That's something that you don't think about, hey, when it comes to the roadblocks and stuff like that.
Just didn't even come into mind.
Yeah.
Yeah, we just think, oh, it's a Hungry Jack store. It's like a McDonald's store. They must make money, and they're like foolproof. Yeah, you just got to get one. Yeah, but it's just not the case. I mean, these businesses are subject to going down based on outside things. Yeah. I mean, just think about COVID recently. I mean, I can't even make this up, because what ended up happening was the government decided to shut down. I mean, it's like Comedy Hour, right? The government says, let's shut down the health food stores, the gyms, right? Outside. You're not even allowed to go outside anymore, right? You can't do that, right? Yeah. But they said, let's keep all the fast food joints open. It was like I had someone who was actually at the round table of the government, like just like planning this. Like,
Yes, those were not closing. What?
So I mean, look, this is obviously much later for me, right?
Yeah.
Because we sort of skipped a bit there, but it's just crazy.
It's a joke, isn't it?
Just crazy.
Yeah.
And I feel really, really bad for all those businesses that suffered during that time.
Yeah.
And as I'm hearing all these stories, I'm like, I've been through this. Because if I rewind a bit now, what happened during the roadwork period was we went into debt $1 million. Now,
how does that feel though? Knowing that, because I've never been in debt, and hearing that. Someone being in debt for $1 million, how did it feel?
It wasn't so much the number.
Yeah.
Because when we were in our early 20s, we'd accumulated all these properties, but they were also leveraged from the banks. So bigger debts. And I think back then it was roughly $1 million then anyway across multiple properties.
But that's what people will call good debt, right?
Right.
So there's a bit of a difference there.
Some people get a bit anxious about just debt in general.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the thing is, the business had cash flow, but it just wasn't enough cash flow to cover the debts, because not only do you now have to cover the former debt, you have to cover all the future expenses. So your GST, taxes, wages, super, et cetera, right? And so that is really, really tough. And probably what most people don't know is that in fast food, the margins are really, really tight, right? And back then we were selling burgers for like $1. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's fucking nothing in that.
Yeah.
Okay. And it's probably, I would argue, a lost leader to get people in the store to buy other stuff, right? So you're doing $1 cheeseburgers, you're doing $1 frozen Cokes. It's hard to make money when you're selling all of that sort of stuff. So you have to rely on people buying other things too. Okay. And so most people think it's a license to print money, but it's not. It's really, really tough in fast food. It's probably got a better run rate though than the cafe down the road, because what you get with a big franchise is a lot of back end systems and support. And what I mean by support, not that, they come in and make burgers for you, but, they take care of all marketing, advertising, the systems. So like think about the IR laws that are around now. So complicated. How on earth is a small business operator meant to navigate industrial relations laws in Australia? They can't. They're basically winging it. And that's why they get unstuck when they didn't give some guy or girl 3 warning sheets before they said you're out, right? So then that staff member comes back and says, oh no, you didn't give me 3 warning sheets, you know what I mean? So, and then the small business guy's like, 3 warning sheet? What's that?
Yeah, what is that?
Yeah, you were useless at your job. That's why I let you go, right? So Hungry Jacks will obviously have the IR systems in place so that you operate within the rules, okay, and don't get unstuck later on with like a lawsuit or anything like that. And so and we still have the Hungry Jack store now. So as an employer, we are by the letter, making sure that we're within the rules, because we don't want to have people coming back and saying we did the wrong thing, or didn't pay enough or something like that. Yeah, but because the IR laws are so complicated, and we're digressing here, but because the IR laws are so complicated, that's why businesses get unstuck with this complexity and issues, and then they've got tax bills, and then they've got staff members coming back saying you didn't play by the rules or whatever, or Fair Work steps in. Yeah, so good being in a big company like Hungry Jacks, so it can weather more storms that way, because the smaller players are probably going to go first. And that was something that we thought about actually going into a business. When McDonald's back, in 2008 said, oh, look, you can't buy a McDonald's store. We then go back down to, okay, well, what's the next best option? Is it Subway?
How much does it cost to buy a McDonald's and a Hungry Jacks?
It varies based on the turnover. Yeah. But so essentially a Hungry Jack store would be anywhere between 3 times and 5 times the annual net profit. So net profit plus add backs, if you understand that. It's like an EBITDA. And so let's just say ballpark $2-3 million for a Hungry Jack store. McDonald's do higher turnover, so they're going to have high profits. But those multiples I've seen somewhere upwards of 7 times. Now you're going to say, why would they pay 7 times? It's because it's a McDonald's store, so you're paying for the name.
For the name. Yeah.
So you would argue that is the goodwill. Yeah. And a lot of people too from outside the system who want to get a McDonald's store just think it's a license to print money. They're still stuck in that mindset, thinking that nothing's going to happen. I'm just going to buy that McDonald's store and make lots of cash. I think those days are well and truly over. And it was mainly, I think it kind of got that namesake because of the 80s and 90s, when it was just much easier to make money. Yeah, probably less taxes.
And that just goes to show the power of a brand and a household name, right? So McDonald's is selling the same exact thing, right? They're both, Hungry Jacks and McDonald's are both selling burgers, fast food, fries, the frozen Coke, but McDonald's commands higher prices and higher trust and credibility, right? And weatherproof, like you're saying as well, future-proof it.
Yeah,
So,
and it's global too.
Exactly.
Whereas Hungry Jack's is not global, although it operates within the Burger King system. So it's actually like a sub-franchise, really, of Burger King Global.
Yeah. That literally, that's the perfect example of why building a personal brand, whether it is for an individual or even a business in today's day and age, is probably the single most important marketing asset that you can build for your business, essentially. Yeah. And I find this fascinating because when I was a kid, I remember being in front of a McDonald's and just thinking, if I ever get to own one of these, I will be a millionaire.
See?
And you telling me this is like, wow, that would have broken, little Nelson's dream.
You could have been, but the other thing too, Nelson, is this is almost going to be a discussion now on franchising and McDonald's and Hungry Jack's. But most people don't know that when you buy McDonald's store and even Hungry Jack's, you can't just buy it and then you walk away. You've got to go through all this training, and those companies want you to be in the store. Yeah, so you're not a silent partner and just leave it to some kids to run it. You've got to be there like every day in the store, right? So it takes a lot of time and effort. And even to get into something like McDonald's, you would probably have to dedicate 24 months of your life just in training before you even get into the store.
Wow. No, thank you. Knowing what you know now, would you buy a Hungry Jack's again?
Such a good question. I wouldn't. Now, that only because I've now had the taste and the success of selling online. Now, I'm going to tell you an interesting story. I was down in Sydney once, and this is probably 2018, 2019, and I get on the plane to come from Sydney to the Gold Coast, and I sat down next to this couple who were next to me, and they were on the phone, and they're like, oh, that's great news. Oh, thank you so much. Oh, this is so good. And he then hangs up the phone, and I couldn't help myself. I said, mate, I have to ask, what's the news? Yeah, because he was so excited. And he goes, we've just been accepted for a McDonald's store.
And you're like, oh no.
I was like, oh. And I was just thinking, do you even know what you're getting into? Yeah.
Did you tell him?
I told him that we had the Hungry Jack's as well. But it turned out that his father owned the McDonald's store. So I dare say he had experience in McDonald's, and now this was his dream. He's probably going to be handed down the store at some cost. But I thought, gee, it's brutal life. I mean, I'm not just saying this for McDonald's or Hungry Jack's. I'm saying it's brutal being in business. Okay, because when you're in business, no one else gives a fuck about you, right? You're taking on all the risk, and you take on the reward if there's a reward. But as you know, like most businesses in Australia, what's the stat? It's something like 90% fail within something like 5 years.
Yep.
Now, McDonald's and Hungry Jack's and those types of businesses, the big fast food brand name franchises, are going to do far better, as I said before, than your smaller business. But it just shows that you've got to put so much skin in the game. You've got to take on a lot of risk. And the government's not really, well, certainly the current government, and I am political, the current Labor government is not out there cheering for employers at all. Okay, they're anti-employer, and that's why they put in so much anti-government, anti-business regulation. Like if people really cared about small business, they'd remove all the red tape, all the green tape, that the tax system is a nightmare, and make it simple for people to get ahead, employ people, and do well.
It is very complicated. It is very challenging. It is the most difficult thing I've ever done to go and start my own business.
Yeah.
And the more you progress as well, you would think that, oh, it's going to get easier. It never gets easier. It actually gets more complicated. And the problems that you start facing are just way different to what you're used to. Initially, a lot of it is cash flow and money and all these things. Once you get past through that and you have a validated concept or offer or service or product, the problems that you start dealing with are things that you never expected that they will come. When you start employing people, management, all these things, scaling, it's so scary. It's so hard. And the more I do this, I have a very resilient mind. I truly have an iron mind.
Yeah, because you're thinking, look, if he can get through this, I can get through this, right?
Yeah, but even with the resilience that I have, some days I wake up and I look at the ceiling and I'm like, why the fuck am I doing this?
That 9-to-5 job sounded so good.
Yeah, exactly. That certainty, that safety, knowing that there's nothing easier than being an employee, to be honest. You show up with a smile on your face, just do your job, do your task, be good to people around you, be nice to have around, and you get money. You get certainty.
Yeah, and you go home. And you basically leave all the troubles behind.
Exactly. You don't have to deal with anything. Even taxes are because they can't trust you to do your taxes. They have to take the money for you. You're like so many little things that you start realizing, yeah, I understand now why most people will never make it.
But let me give people a bit of a wake up here too, because this kind of just came to me the other day. I talk a lot in my program, my mentoring program, about the 9-to-5 matrix. Getting out of the 9-to-5 matrix. Yeah. Now, is that something you should do? Yes, you should. If you want to start living life on your terms, you should definitely get out of that. And if you want to build the wealth that you probably want, it's going to be very, very difficult to do that as a 9-to-5 employee. I'm not saying it can't be done. It's just difficult, more difficult. Now, the thing is though, moving out of the 9 to 5 matrix into, let's say, self-employed, it is actually now the self-employed matrix. You're still on the hamster wheel, right? So you haven't kind of checked out. You just moved from a different level of matrix.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
And this just sort of came to me the other day, like, hang on a second. It's a different level of matrix. You're sort of a bit more autonomous in a way, but you still got a lot of control. And so the next level, Nelson, after the self-employed matrix is freedom. Freedom from the 9 to 5 and freedom from being self-employed. What does that freedom look like? In monetary kind of terms and lifestyle terms, it means you no longer have staff. You no longer have, maybe it's a business as such that you have to operate. You've just got money that's being put into your bank account completely passively without you doing anything. And then you can do whatever the fuck you want, right? There is a level of fuck off money. Yeah. And that's what I'm aiming for.
In your perspective, what's that level in terms of specific numbers?
Look, everyone's different. Okay. And people who are listening to this should do this exercise where they just sit down and just write down, what would it take for me just to live on passive income? And even you put down, like, I've done this exercise years ago and I probably have increased it a bit, but it was like, if you had a chef, your own, like, just stuff like that, your own chef, your own personal shopper, you know, you had 2 holidays a year, you owned this car, that car, this house, right? And back then, I think it was, I only needed, I think it was like 300,000 or 500,000 a year. And I could have basically, and that could have been it. So what's going to give you $300,000 or $500,000 a year? Let's say $500,000 a year. That type of capital you would need in a current sort of first mortgage fund would be somewhere around $5 million. Let's say they're paying roughly 10%, which they kind of are. So that would then deliver you $500,000 a year. So for those listening, you've got $5 million in a first mortgage fund that's now going to pay you interest every single month, but over the year is going to add up to $500,000. And then that money you can then use to do whatever you want, pay for your chef, pay for this, that, and the other. So those things are probably outside what most people are thinking of, like your own personal chef. Most people don't think of that. But I think you could probably break it down to easily and have a very, very comfortable life, probably at 200 or 250,000. So that's really only 2.5 million in the fund, delivering you $250,000 a year. And then you've basically checked out, as in checked out of the work life.
Now, let's go back to how did you manage to make $40 million? And at what point does this fit with as well owning the Hungry Jacks in your story? What happened? Because I know you went through some rough patches before you got to where you are today.
Right. So I've already said about the roadworks. And during that time, I was doing other jobs. So here's my wife and I, from at face value, looked pretty good. Oh, they got a Hungry Jack store. They must be doing really well. We're crumbling. And I had to go and get extra money because the money within the store wasn't cutting it, right? We're going backwards. Yeah. And so I went and I was selling cardboard boxes out of the back of the shop and around the place, which built up to this little tiny business, which is a whole nother story. But I was selling cardboard boxes to make money. I then went and did Uber at one point. A couple of years later, I was doing Uber just to bring in extra money. I was happy with like $700 a week from Uber. I thought, well, that's all right. Yeah, it was money I didn't have. But don't forget too, Nelson, you still got to take out petrol, wear and tear on the car. And you forget about, there's no such thing as what did I get per hour, right? It's just, I just got money because your hourly rate is not even in the equation, right? And I know some people start to think, oh, I wouldn't do that because, you know, I'd only work out to get like $20 an hour. Yeah, but it's $20 you didn't have before. So these are the types of things I was doing. Now, during this period of roadworks, I was also looking at other ways to make money. And what happened was I was just scrolling. I think it was, I don't know, it was on social media or something. And this ad comes up, how to sell on Amazon. And I looked through, I thought, wow, I don't need to be in a business as such. I don't need to be in a physical location. I can sell across the world. All I have to do is just find a product, ship it into Amazon. They are then going to pick, pack, and ship it to the customer, and they'll take care of customer service. I'm thinking, this is what I need. Yeah. And so it was a course on how to do this. So I bought the course, of which I didn't have any money. So of course I paid for that on credit card. And then I just start the journey of learning how to sell products on Amazon. And the first product didn't really work out. I spent probably $15,000 of borrowed money again, probably on a credit card at the time. The second product also I never eventually got to, but it was the third product. That was the one that ended up now doing 40 plus million, let's call it that, Nelson, 40 plus million dollars in sales since 2000 and really 18, halfway through 18. So only in, let's say, 5 or 6 years has it really, really taken off. And because of that, what ended up happening was I paid off all the debt associated with the Hungry Jack's store. So the tax office was paid back, food debt, whatever else was lingering around. So that was then done. I then saved up, because at the time we were also renting, because we'd sold during that period every last house we owned to go into the store. So we're now no houses at all.
So you went from
Renting.
having a bunch of investment properties to now we have zero?
Correct. Right.
That
Brutal.
would have hurt.
Oh, it was horrible, because we'd had always dreamed of never selling a store, a house. Like, we'll buy the house and we're just going to hold it forever. But then circumstances happen. Yeah, situations that you just are completely out of your control just happen, and you have to then do what you got to do, right? So sell the houses. Yeah, we needed the capital. So now we're in the position now we've saved up enough money to buy a house. We then paid off that house within 12 months. We then bought now like 3 other commercial properties. We've now bought another dream house, which we then spent $1 million on renovating it. So it's now like a multi-million-dollar house. And I've bought a car collection and this, that, and the other, right? But I'm not sort of just throwing money away. We haven't gone on any overseas holidays, right? We've just been working. And the key thing here, Nelson, is that I'm super focused on diversifying the income, because the lesson out of owning this Hungry Jack's restaurant, that where the sales collapsed, was we didn't have any other income stream, because we'd pinned everything onto this one store thinking we've made it now. And of course, when roadworks come in and decimate your sales, where else are you getting the money from? And the other thing at that time too, I didn't understand anything about online sales. So I didn't have the knowledge to just say, oh, well, I'm just going to start selling anything else online. Yeah, that's why I was doing boxes. That's why I was doing Uber, because I wasn't educated in online sales until I started doing the course. And that's basically how it's all unfolded.
When you started doing the course as well, were you open at that point? Because I know for me, for example, getting a coach was something that I never thought I would do, to get a business coach, right? Or someone to help me figure out the things I didn't know, right? So when you were at that point, looking at that course and potentially having a coach, were you fully open to it? Do you have some level of skepticism?
At that point, well, let me go back. In 2000, the year 2000 odd, I remember watching the TV and Tony Robbins came on TV, and he was selling Personal Power 2. So I think back then my mind was already open to other people know more than me about the world and making money. So I'm going to listen to them. And so I bought the Personal Power 2, it was probably some stupid amount of money, probably like a week's worth of wage back then. I then remember reading Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. And then I started just devouring property investment books, like a lot of them. And when you're young, you don't have any, I guess, expectations of, oh, I can't do that, or I can't do that. There's no sort of negativity. When you're young, you're like, oh, I can do that. I just read the book. It said, buy this property, do this. This is how you do it. And I went, oh, okay. And so that's what I did. I just went out and bought another property. And then I went and bought another property. And then I bought another property. Just thinking that this is just what people do, right? By getting the information and then executing. Around that time, and this is now going back to when I was 21, I got so interested in property. Everyone was asking me, how'd you buy this property? You're only 21. I was like, I just went and bought it. I didn't know what was the big deal. And so I got interested in telling and helping people and educating them about how I did it. And it was just really like how I was able to get the home loan, really. And that led me into then, hey, I really like this sort of area, this niche. And I went in and then became a mortgage broker for Wizard Home Loans. Now, Wizard Home Loans, which was big back in the early 2000s, was owned by Mark Burros, who now is the mentor. He's got his own podcast and he's super big. And so he was the owner of Wizard. I'm now in Wizard in the very beginning. And that job at the time was my very first commission only job. But I was like, that's fine. I'd write a loan, I get paid. But I had the backup because at that time too, I was also a nightclub DJ. So I was DJing at night and then executing home loans by day. But I had the time, the DJing gave me the time to learn the process and build up a client base and understand the system and what have you. So by the time I got to 25, I then left the original business where I was learning and then went and opened up my own franchise in a place called Albany Creek in northern Brisbane.
Mm-hmm. And now bringing it back to that question in terms of being scared to invest into, a potential coach or a mentorship, because I know for some people it can be very challenging and there's too many people out there that are also not legit, right? That they're offering coaching and they might not have done the thing. There's too many scams, right? What would you say to someone that is looking to be mentored or coached, but they're not open to the idea?
Okay. So let's go back to Amazon because we're jumping around here. Yeah, we're like, oh, bit of this, bit of that. When I did the Amazon training program, about 2 months into me paying the $3,000, they then said, hey, we're going to do a coaching program, VIP coaching program. And my back was up against the wall. Like we had to make something work. So I was like all in on this. And the coach at the time, being Adam Hudson, he had the runs on the board, right? So he had a business in Amazon. It was successful. He had the receipts as well, like had a really nice apartment on the beach on the Gold Coast. Yeah. And I thought, okay, this is the guy who I want to be aligned with. And I then shelled out the $20,000, yeah, which is a lot of money. Remember too, Nelson, we didn't have any money. So people are going to say, well, how did you afford to buy that? I literally went home and started selling stuff in the garage, like Technics turntables and BMX bikes and stuff that I never wanted to let go of. But I was like, no, we have to do this, like, because I can always buy more turntables later. That was my mindset. And so I know that there's a bit of skepticism there in the industry, but I think certainly for me, when you find someone who has the runs on the board, who has the receipts, yeah, I guess you got to look past the surface level. And if you believe in that person, then I look back now, Nelson, and think every single thing. I've done more than one coaching program. Yeah, I've spent over 6 figures in coaching over the past 5-6 years. Every single one of them, I would say, was the best money I ever spent. The best money I ever spent, because I've been able to get results. So to those that are sitting on the fence thinking, oh, not sure if I should spend money with a coach or a mentor or things like that, obviously scrutinize them, find out if they've got the runs on the board, make sure they've got the receipts. And what I mean by receipts, Nelson, is I could just say on my Instagram profile, for example, I'm a successful Amazon seller and I've done $6 trillion in sales. Now, no one knows if I have or not, but if you dig past the facade and, what sort of house do they live in? What sort of cars do they drive? Does it just add up? You know what I mean? Like if someone says I've done $6 trillion in sales, but they're driving a Kia, there's probably something that is like a mismatch there, yeah? And then of course you're going to, I guess, get a vibe, let's call it, a good vibe from the person. Like, is this person someone who I want to align myself with?
Now, these days, it sounds crazy to me when someone doesn't have a business coach. If you're running a business and you don't have a mentor or someone that is giving you the information that you need to where you're trying to go, it sounds insane to me. Looking back now.
Yeah. There's a couple of things, Nelson, right? I think you'll be the same. You want to know the information so you can move faster. And secondly, so you can minimize mistakes. Yeah, whether they be money down the toilet mistakes or just errors in the way perhaps you set up the business, which is then going to cause you problems in the future. So, like for example, in my mentoring, I find that people don't set up just even their legal entity correctly. So that then poses problems down the track. And that's the foundation of the business, is how you set up the legal entity.
Yeah, absolutely. And you just said it there, like avoiding the mistakes. That's the biggest thing, so that you can move faster and create the reality that you want in a split second,
Yeah.
compared to trying to do everything on your own. And I went through that path, right? When I first started, it took me 6.5 years or something before I actually got someone to coach me properly and to just pay for information.
Have you looked back though?
Dude, is the single best decision I've ever made. Absolutely. Investing into someone. Because also, when you don't know what you don't know, it's too hard to figure it out. And you're going to go through so many blocks before you actually get the information. And sometimes you might know what it is because I kind of knew, but you can't piece the puzzle together.
Yes.
And then it's just one thing that you need someone to tell you, hey, dude, this is what you need to do. And you're like, oh, duh, everything makes sense now. For me, I was missing 2 huge pieces, which were sales and marketing.
Right.
I knew it. I knew, okay.
So you knew your craft.
Yes.
Yeah.
I was a master at the craft already, but the sales weren't coming through. The leads weren't coming through. Everything was based on referrals and word of mouth, which is a terrible place to be if you're just relying on that, because that's not predictable, right?
Yeah.
That should be the icing on the cake. But you need to have a proper lead generation system and a clear sales process as well.
Yeah. You can always tell the people that have had a coach. And just, I remember when I moved recently from one house to the next, it was the removalist. And he just blew me away. I was like, this guy's a removalist. And he was like, he'd respond to you like within like 3 minutes by text, automated text things, automated emails. When they showed up, they all had a uniform on. You know, he was like, hey, and he had a complete sales pitch when I spoke to him on the phone. And I was like, this guy's had coaching. Yeah. But it was good because the whole system gave me trust in this guy, because I was like, he's being coached. He looks good. He sounds good. We just want to get the deal done. Like, I don't want to ring around 10 different removalists. He looked the best. And I was like, I'm just going to call this guy. Yeah. Because his marketing looked good too. Yeah. His website looked good. And I'm putting all my personal possessions with someone. I want to make sure they're looking after it. Yeah. And just then the way the whole thing just unfolded after that. I was like, yeah. And then I asked him at the very end, I said, you have a coach? He's like, yeah. Yeah, I have a good coach. Yeah. And I was like, good on you. Yeah. Because it obviously is working for him.
Absolutely. And you need those systems. You need someone to help you implement them, install them. And once you do that, it's just going to help you skyrocket your business for sure. You can see it across every single industry.
Well, he's now looking about I remember talking to him about scaling, but more so in helping other removalist companies to systemize
To
their
teach them
business.
how to do it.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the natural progression, right? Of business.
Yeah.
You do the thing and then you look back and you're like, holy shit, I can't believe so many people haven't figured this out, and you just want to help other people. And then the natural progression is usually going and either franchise it or helping people by coaching, mentoring, programs, helping with the systems, providing all the tools for them to be able to do the same thing. Because I don't want people to go through everything I had to go through to get to where I am today. And the same is for you, that you're doing it now with your mentorship program as well. I want to touch base on something that you mentioned, which was your first 2 products didn't work with Amazon, right? They were a failure.
Yeah.
What made the third one work?
In hindsight, a couple of fundamental mistakes, I think. My first product was a car chamois, but I designed it in a way that was very differentiated in the marketplace. So from the packaging to the actual chamois itself. Okay. And you can say, oh, chamois, who cares? But it stood out, you know, and you have to kind of differentiate on Amazon. Otherwise, you're just one of the other ones. And the price point was too low. That was the first mistake. So I didn't have enough margin to cover things like advertising. And it was in a space where I think with car lovers, they're going to stick to the brands like McDonald's and Hungry Jack's. They're going to stick to the brands that they trust, like Maguire's. Maguire's is a very old, trusted brand within the car niche. And here's me just like this new player. And they're like, nah, I'm going to go with on my specialty car, I'm going to go with the Maguire's products. Yeah. And so I didn't really factor that in. But having done all that, it was obviously the best thing I ever did because it was starting something. Yeah, I did something. I learned the process of getting a trademark and dealing with the Chinese manufacturers and putting it all together in designers and logos and all this sort of thing, and then getting it shipped all the way from China into the US. Yeah, and just learning that whole process is something in itself. And then that gives you the experience and the knowledge to then go to the next thing. Yeah, which for me, I went to Canton Fair, walking around blindly, really. The place is massive, Nelson, right? And I said, okay, that's it. I'm going to do chef knives. Chef knives was my new thing. And I designed this new package, and I had a utility pattern and design pattern. And we're talking, I think I ended up spending on that product in the vicinity of 40 or 50 grand over probably a year. But it was around that time too that I came across, which is I have now that's healthcare product, which I now have exclusive distribution on across many parts of the world. So that kind of sort of came into play during the knife process, and it just started, the healthcare product started taking off. And I just sort of was like, you know what, I'm going to park this chef knife thing. And I have the remnants left over in the house in a box, just like, oh, that's all part of the journey now, right?
In terms of products, someone told me that when you go into e-com and you find a product, you do all the research and all these things, like e-com experts wouldn't share the product because they don't want another person to come and do it. Is that true?
Yeah. Predominantly that is true, because the hardest part of any sort of e-com selling, Amazon selling, is what product do I choose? Yeah. And it's funny how narrow-minded you can get. You sort of, you just forget that there's like a quadrillion products that you could possibly do, but you just can't, your brain can't move that wide. And so you can only sort of think about the things that are right in front of you, like in your house. You're looking at the vase and the mug and the cutlery and the chef knife, right? Or the car chamois. But then there's so many things that are outside your scope. And that's why the product research is so important, because I say to people, just go to the newsagent, just as an example, go to the newsagent and just start buying magazines that you have, nothing about: knitting, beekeeping, equestrian, baby, right? All this type of stuff. And just start flicking through these magazines to start broadening your mind on just other things that are out there. And that then leads to something else, which then leads to something else. And then generally, like I had a client last night who just had an explosion of like, oh my God, we've now basically found something. But she was putting a lot of pressure on herself to try and find a product. And I give my clients like a list of, this is all the different ways you could use to find products. And now even the internet is even far better, and you've got social media you can now use, right? And even to a degree, AI. So you've got all these tools ranging from online to actual physical things like buying a magazine. And she has spent so much time every waking moment going through. And you sort of start building up this big dossier of potential products. Now, where I step in is I can go through with my client and say, yes, no, yes, no, yes, no, yes, no. We sort of filter them out, based on other attributes that I show my clients, how I sort of define what is going to be a good product. Anyway, so last night, she was absolutely thrilled. We've come down to something. And the point of it though, Nelson, is that I'd never even heard of it. This is a product that's actually in your kitchen. I'd never heard of it.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. And so we've stumbled across it, and I said, let's give this a go.
Just to confirm, you have never shared publicly the product that helped you make $40 million.
Correct.
Can you tell me that product?
No, don't make me do it.
No.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, the product is...
Wait, what? What is that?
Have I even told you?
No.
So it's a...
Would have never guessed that.
yeah. It ticks a lot of boxes as far as what you would look for.
Yeah, it sounds to me like there's so many things that you're almost running through a system, right? And a checklist checking, oh yeah, this covered, this done. Is that how you find the product?
Well, now it is, but originally I just basically stumbled across it. Now, I haven't even told you, Nelson, how I came across this healthcare product, right? It's absolutely fascinating.
Yeah.
So I'm struggling on Amazon, like most people, trying to figure out what is the best product, you know. And at the time, I'm absorbing information from all the gurus at the time. Gary Vee, there was Grant Cardone, who I've read all of Grant Cardone's books. I love the guy. Just anything I could find. Tony Robbins again, he's still around now, right? And Gary Vee said, you need to be on social media. This is perfect for you, right? And I was like, oh, okay. And I wasn't really on social media. I had a Facebook account, whatever. And I was like, okay, cool. And he said, if you don't know what to say on social media, just document whatever you're doing. And so what was I doing? I was learning Amazon process, and I was dealing with the Chinese. And this is around the knife product. So I start recording myself on camera talking about what I was doing in Amazon. Hey, I've just received this sample. Isn't this amazing? Whatever.
Yeah.
And so I just started doing this daily. And the next thing you know, someone reached out to me and said, hey, I've got a healthcare product. I would love to get this into Amazon. Would it be possible if we could meet and discuss the opportunity? I think most people, Nelson, would be like, oh. And look, I admit, in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, I don't know anything about healthcare products. Yeah, that's kind of well above my level. I'm doing like car shammy. Yeah. This guy's talking healthcare product.
Yeah.
But I was like, oh, I'll go meet with the guy and see what he has to say. So I go meet with him, and he shows me this healthcare product. And I said, okay, cool. How about you give me 100 units? Because I had no idea how it was going to go.
Yeah.
Again, I'd never even heard of it. Okay. So many products in the world to be discovered.
Yeah.
Okay. I take 100 units. We ship them into Amazon. I'm now controlling these. Okay. So they're on a consignment basis. The 100 sell within 3 weeks. Okay. And I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. So think about it. No reviews, brand new product in the market in the US, and they're sold out now within 3 weeks. I'm like, yes. So you start doing the numbers on your calculator. Hey, if I could sell 100 every 3 weeks, I think at the time I could probably make like 50 grand in a year. Yeah. And so I go back, and now here's the key part. I sign then. So I was obviously pretty switched on back then, I think, because I said, what I want to do is I want to sign an exclusive distribution agreement for me to sell this on Amazon, because I know that I don't want anyone else to get this product and also sell it on Amazon, because Amazon allows you to do that. You could have 5 different sellers selling the same product. Okay. It's all under the one listing. And then what happens? It's a race to the bottom on price point.
Price point. That's it.
And I didn't want to compete on that. So he said, yeah, okay, I'll give you exclusive rights to Amazon USA. And you have to buy, I think at the time I had to buy like maybe 500 units a month, something like that. And I said, yeah, great, let's do it. What happened after that though was I was obviously focused now on trying to improve the sales. Can we get above 100 in 3 weeks? So next thing it's moving to 100 in 2 weeks. Now it's 100 a week. Then it moves to like 20 a day. I'm like, wow, this thing's really ramping up. So as I start getting reviews, the more reviews you get, the more sales you get. Okay. And ultimately the sales start ramping up. And next thing you know, the goal back then within the Amazon world is to get to this magical like 6 figures a month. So 100,000 US dollars in a month. And I blew past that. And I was like, whoa, where's this going to go? So and all my goals had been based on 100,000 a month. I thought that was it. I thought that was Like once I got there, I thought, mate, I'm sorted. Right?
What kind of profit were you seeing?
Around the 40%.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, it was really, really high profit margin. But what I realized once I got to the 100,000 a month, now most people listening to this are thinking, wow, $100,000 a month, you're rich. And look, that's 1.2 million US. So we're probably talking close to $2 million now Australian in a year in sales. And let's say 40% profit, there's like $800,000 in profit. But what's happening is as the sales are increasing, the money that you're making is going back into stock. So you're not like just pulling out this like wads of cash. And so that was kind of an eye-opening moment for me too, because I just had this belief that $100,000 was going to be like the pinnacle. And once I get there, I'm going to have the Porsche and I'm going to have the chef and, but I'm looking around like, where's the Porsche? It didn't happen.
Wait, where's the chef? Where's everyone?
Yeah, where are they? So that was certainly eye-opening for me. And I speak to other entrepreneurs now, or other Amazon sellers, and they've got the same belief too. And I say, how much money's in the bank now? And they're like, nothing, because it's all going back into stock. I said, that's right. I said, you've got to push the goal higher. So for me, once I got to the 100, I was like, man, I'm going to be doing like $1 million. I'm going to be doing $1 million a month, and maybe that's going to be it. Yeah. And I will tell you, there is a magic number, which is, in my opinion, is about the 250, 300,000 US dollars a month, where it's so much coming in. If you can plateau out, if you plateau out at that number, then you can start pulling out cash. And it got to the point where I was pulling out like $50,000 just profit, $100,000 profit a month. And just like, what do I do with this money now? Because the business is still taken care of. It's got more money coming in too. Yeah. And that was the time when I was like, okay, cool. I can now start paying off the Hungry Jack's debts. And that was sort of done. So then it was like, okay, let's save up some money now to put towards, buying a house, because we were still renting, as I said. And yeah, things just took off from there.
If you had to make $1 million within 6 months, how would you do it?
I've changed the way I think now too about online sales, and also I'm now right into crypto. So it's very, very difficult to know what is the right product to catapult, because you could do some research, like ice baths, right? That is all the rage now. Everyone's on ice bath.
Taking off so much.
Yeah, but there's already people doing it, right? So you might think, oh, I'm going to do ice bath as well. What's the longevity on that? And your competition is so great that to penetrate into that marketplace is difficult. So my point is, there's not really a magic bullet with products unless you follow my system. Yeah, which is going to narrow down to what is going to be a better product than others. The other thing too is, so for example, I've got a client who I've helped them sign up to a medical product. Now this was, again, another product I'd never even heard of. Yeah. So even with my experience, things just still come across my desk. I'm like, wow, this is amazing. And this product had been in the system for years. It's just that you just got to go down so many rabbit holes to find these things, okay? Now, it's a really fascinating story. My clients have a child who had a medical condition. I won't tell you what it is and what the product is, right, for them. But it helps the baby, okay? And they were then looking to solve this problem. And this is kind of where a lot of people find products, to solve a problem. Yeah, good product to have. And they found the product, and it was based in the US. So they had it shipped from the US to Australia, and the shipping was like $200 US or something, okay? And they went, wow, this product should be available in Australia. They contacted, and by this stage, they've come to me, right? Hey, Matt, we need your help. We want to secure this deal, blah, blah, blah. And I said, look, contact him here and do this and say this. So what they ended up doing was they signed an exclusive distribution contract with the gentleman who owns and invented the product, who's based in the US, who turns out is a doctor, but also an inventor. And so now they have the full rights to Australia and New Zealand to ship this product in and have it in Australia ready for customers to buy obviously the arbitrage for them is customers now don't have to pay the exorbitant shipping cost. Okay, so that's why they're going to buy it from them in Australia. Now, I think for them, and this is back to say, how much can you make? For them, I think conservatively they'll make 250 profit probably per year because it's a very, very niche product. But that's a great start. He will be able to leave his job. He's gotten out of the 9-to-5 matrix now, and he's going to be able to go move into the self-employed matrix. Yeah. But 250 a year for a lot of people would be a great start to having a product that solves a problem, is exclusive to them. And think about this too, Nelson, maybe for him too, or it's him and her, they're husband-wife couple. Maybe for them, it's also, hey, look, if we can get this to 250 a year, let's say that's the profit, and we can sell it at even a 4x, that's $1 million business. So they could potentially sell out of that product maybe even in 2 years at $1 million and just take $1 million off the table. That's an option that's open to them as well. Now, going back to what is the alpha, because that's what we're really talking about here. And in my opinion, it is crypto. If you just look back in history now, Bitcoin has given the highest return out of all assets for most years. And I think it's something like 8 out of the last decade. And so you can't really avoid the fact that is now in the marketplace. And that's where I now have a lot of my money invested to the tune of, a couple of mil in the crypto space, trying to now break out of the self-employed matrix and then into the freedom category. Yeah. And I think the fastest way to do that right now is with crypto. But how do you get the money to get into crypto?
That's my point, because I need to put a challenge to it, right? Because it can't just be having the capital to go.
Money into crypto.
So how would you make $1 million in 6 months having no money, no capital? How would you do it? The quickest way for you to make it?
Well, you have to get, okay, here is another way which I kind of like, which is if you become the person who finds the winning product, okay, but you don't have the money to go and buy the stock or anything like that, you could come to someone like me and say, I've found this product, which I think is a multi-million-dollar product, and all you want then is like a royalty or a finder's fee. Maybe you want an upfront fee. Yeah, maybe I do some due diligence, I can secure the deal, and maybe based on that I say, Nelson, if I can secure this deal, I'm going to give you like $25,000 straight away. Boom, there you go. Now you could go take that $25,000 and you could put that into crypto, and you could potentially 10x that to 250 in probably, let's say 12 to 24 months even, if you play the game right. Keep in mind too, I want to put this caveat in. Most people, and it's 90% of people, Nelson, get burnt, killed, skinned alive in crypto. And I've so many stories of even clients that I've got like, oh, Matt, I was in crypto and I put this money in, I lost it and this, that, and the other. So I know all the downsides of it. It's a lot of emotion as well with anything to do with putting money into something. But that is like if you were the 10% and you were able to place the steps right, you could do well.
That's still not $1 million in 6 months.
No, that's right. But it's starting with something, yeah. And hey, look, I'll just change my wording. You could take $25,000 and put it in crypto, and it could turn into $1 million. It could. There are ways where you can do that, particularly in meme coins or airdrops. Mm-hmm. Super, super risky. And I'm not saying anyone should go and do that, but it is possible.
If I tell you, Matthew, you will die if you don't make this $1 million in 6 months. And as we know, crypto is very risky, right?
Yes.
You have to make this money or you die. How would you do it?
So the other way.
It goes into all the different options. Yeah, okay, that one doesn't work. Let's go to the next.
It's very similar to the product idea, but you do it with property. Yeah, so you go and find a deal where you can leverage it by you are the knowledge of the deal. Okay, so let's say you find a property, it could be developed somehow, and maybe the high rise goes on it or something like that, and then you can turn nothing But your knowledge, you go speak to a developer and say, look, I'm going to sell you this idea. And that is a way you could make $1 million. I have seen people make $1 million in just literally an idea and flipping property as well. Yeah, but they've done it because you're going to say, well, you have to buy the property and then you have to do something to it and then flip it. No, I'm talking about people that have bought on contract, no money down, but flipped it before settlement. So no money at all, and they've just taken the margin.
I love this because I'm listening to you in which way you will do this and the different options. And I have a completely different perspective on it, right? To me, the first thing that comes into mind is I need to put together an offer. I'm thinking from a service-based approach, right? Because I don't need any capital. I just need to put together an irresistible offer.
Yes.
Find a market that is starving. And here's where the universal law of business comes into play, because you're talking before about pain points, right? You need to find a product that is solving a pain point. Mm-hmm. That's exactly the way I'm looking at it from a service-based perspective, right? Yeah. I need to find a market that is in pain and that want a specific desired outcome, and I can get them that, right? Through, in my own case, is the skills of podcasting and video production, right? So I don't really need much capital for that. Everyone has a phone, so you can really put together an offer that involves you shooting some reels on your phone for the person. You start editing yourself, no cost. There's free programs like CapCut where you produce the products and then you can take it to the next level. It's like, hey, I not only produce the reels for you, I can also take charge of all the distribution. Cool, so you don't have to do anything about it. Oh, by the way, you're struggling with the content ideas. Don't worry, I'll take care of that, right? And once I make just enough capital, then I'm gonna bring an editor on board. So that person is gonna help me with some of the time that I'm losing into the work in itself. From there, I get some time back. Now I have an employee that is taking part of the process. Next stage, I need to get someone to film this for me. Cool, I get my time back. Then, okay, I'll probably start creating content so I can start marketing myself, start getting in front of people, build the trust, get some testimonials from the people that I'm already working with to build that credibility and facilitate how many deals I can get through the door. Eventually start running some ads, eventually have...
Don't keep all the secrets away.
You know, but this is how my brain is working.
Yeah.
And I find so cool to see how there's so many ways to make $1 million.
Well, there's many ways to just make money in
exactly,
right?
Exactly.
But even the property one, even the product one, even what you're talking about with service-based, you're going to have to come with some type of skills, right? You can't just say, oh, I'm just going to just go do property.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got to know what you're looking for and how you can flip it and make money.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're going to have to get educated. And that's why I'm always saying to people, you must be educated in whatever space it is. Yeah. Whether it's podcasting, whether it's selling on Amazon, whether it's property, right? You can't really just jump in and just think it's going to happen overnight with no education.
Yeah. And you need to have the long-term vision, right? And because of that, because it's too hard to just find the one thing initially, you need to stick with that specific skill that you're trying to acquire so that you can get better at it, but also go through the rough patches. And most people are going to give up, but you're still going to be there. In the end, a lot of it comes to who stays the longer. Because whoever stays the longer in the battlefield is the one that is going to know the ins and outs. Everyone else gets in and gets killed. But you've been there before. You have made the same mistake, right? You got injured, you got wounded, but you managed to get up and continue to push through. And now you know where the mines are and you know the different obstacles.
I'm so glad you raised this point, Nelson, because the reason why people, in my opinion, the reason why they quit is because the safety net is too good. So what I mean by that is they've got a 9-to-5 job. Usually what happens is they say, I'm going to go learn how to sell on Amazon. So they start an Amazon training program. Something happens. They've actually got to do work right outside of their 9-to-5 job. So now it's extra time. They're now tired. I don't know. The kids want to play. I want to watch this TV program, whatever it is. And then it's like, oh, you know what? I still got paid this week. So there's no push. Right. So it's easy to become disinterested when it just didn't happen overnight. And that's why most people stop. And then they come back a year later and, oh no, I've thought about it again. I think I do want to do the Amazon thing again. Yeah. And then they start again, they delve back into the program again, and they look up something on Alibaba, and then they kind of get disinterested again. And I'm still getting paid for my 9 to 5 job. And I've got a friend who makes $80,000 a year working for the government. And I said to him the other day, I said, mate, you are getting screwed. How can you be happy living on $80,000 a year? And you know what the answer was? Oh yeah, but you know, I get like an extra day off like once a fortnight or once every 3 weeks and he hates his job. He hates it. Like if he loved it and he said, this is the best job. I love this thing. It gives me so much purpose. And you know, the money is just irrelevant. You know, I'm getting 80 grand, it pays the bills. I'd be like, cool. But he's telling me all the time how much he absolutely despises the job. And I'm always saying to him, you could walk out of that job right now and go get a job selling cars in sales, yeah, and make 6 figures. Easy, probably make $150,000, right? Oh no, I don't really want to do that. You know, selling cars is dodgy.
But he's fine complaining. Complaining. That's my problem right there. Like you said, if there's someone working at McDonald's or your Hungry Jack's and they're stoked to be there, they don't want to do, you know, build an empire or anything like that, but they're happy with life and they're not complaining about money, this, that.
Always complaining about money.
Yeah.
Always complaining. Haven't got enough money, haven't got this. Now, he said car salesmen are dodgy. I don't think that at all. I love sales guys because
the limiting beliefs then.
Well, only the guys who are there doing the right thing. And I'm saying doing the right thing, but like trying to get more sales and deliver a great service. Like I always think to myself, I'd love to go into car sales. It'd be awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. And going back to one of the things that you said in there, I hate quitters. I don't want them near me. I don't want them around me. They are not allowed in Vibes HQ. Stay away. I do not want a quitter close to me because it is like a disease. Once a quitter, always a quitters. They quit and they start with the little things. They can't quit smoking. They can't quit drinking. They can't quit on laziness. They can't quit Netflix. They can't quit caffeine. And it translates to everything and everyone around them.
Yeah. But some people, I have this thing where I want to help people.
Yeah, me too. Me too. But that's the thing. The more you try to help people, and this took me so many years to understand, I can't save everyone.
Yes.
And guess what? Most people also don't want to be saved. That right there.
To complain.
They just want to complain. That's it. You give them all the solutions. You tell them, dude, this is exactly what you need to do, and they won't do it. So I don't have time for those people. I have time for the younger versions of myself, Baby Nelson, that he was hungry, he was driven, he wanted to do the thing, he wanted to get out, escape, build something for himself, but he just didn't know how.
Yeah.
He needed someone to, hey, just give him a little bit of direction. Hey, dude, do this. And then he'll go and get it done. I have time for those people, and that's the people that I want to save.
Yes. Yeah. I had a kid recently come to me who used to work for me at Hungry Jack's. And he's a really good kid. He's now 22, I think. So he's been out in the workforce outside of Hungry Jack's. And he just sort of stays in touch with me. And I give him the time because I can see like he's doing things, like he's hustling. He's got an online thing happening. And I just give him little bits of encouragement or advice where I can. And one of the big things recently was he'd never spent money on going to like a training program where there was other people who were also like-minded, like other entrepreneurial type people. It was $1,500 for the ticket. I said, get in the room, get there. Yeah, forget about even what they're teaching. Yeah, just get there, be amongst the other people and just make some connections and it'll open up your mind because all of his existing friends are all just not on the same wavelength. Okay. And I just heard back from him the other day. He's like, oh my God, it was the best thing I ever did. And he got to meet some much better financial entrepreneurs, than him. Yeah, who were just up a few more levels. And he just said it was the best thing ever. Yeah, he hasn't looked back.
That is fucking cool because I even see it with our own team. I don't let anyone here that I don't think it has what it takes to be with us. And it's not up to standard or doesn't have the hunger. Because we have taken people that they started from zero, for the role that we were training them to do. But we could see the potential. We saw they wanted it that bad. We saw that they stuck with the little things. They're always on time. If they're late, they do push-ups. Don't care. Send me to jail. You know, like little things like that define our culture and our level of standard for everything that we do and the world-class customer service that we provide for clients, right? And that's the kind of people that I want to put my time and effort into training. And guess what happens? If you're looking to become a killer, you need to surround yourself with 5 other killers. Guaranteed, with enough time, you keep showing up, you will become the 6th killer in that group.
That's right. But like I said earlier in this discussion, is that when you're self-employed, no one else gives a fuck about you.
No one.
So you have to be the warrior.
Yes, you do.
No one else is coming to save you. Okay, it's up to you to get the shit done. Yeah, and get yourself ahead. And because you're successful, you're going to bring the team with you, just like you said, right? And if you're not a successful business person, well, they've lost their jobs now. They're going to be back on the scrap heap. Yeah, so they need you to be a warrior.
Absolutely. And that goes back to what we were saying earlier as well in the conversation. Man, this is not for everyone, to be honest. Like you start getting such a level of responsibility on other people, the more you progress, the more you build your business, your empire, and all these things, that it gets to a place where if you don't have what it takes, you will quit and you will let a lot of people down. You might put some people that were heavily dependent on you in difficult positions. So I can see now how why most people will never make it. I have a question for you. With all the money you have made, what's the most expensive thing you have ever bought that you had no need for? And it's not an investment property, nothing like that.
Well, it's an interesting question. The most expensive, look, I actually really don't live that lavish per se. I know I came in here today with like my Louis Vuitton handbag, my man bag. But let me tell you though, coming out of the shit show, I've moved into now, I don't want to spend money on just random shit. And look, I've got most things. I've got a freaking big TV and 5 of those, and I've got a nice car, and you know. So, and I'm not one really to go out and buy like Louis Vuitton t-shirt, for like $1,000. That's not really my thing. I just wear like this black t-shirt. I think this costs like $30, right? I do love sneakers though. And so I don't spend this crazy money. Now, back to the Louis Vuitton bag, there is a story. I only spend money on those things that you don't need with my Amex points. Right? Yeah. So someone else said to me a few years ago, he said, Matthew, you've got to, because I was talking about how much money I was spending on Facebook ads and Google ads. And I think at the time I was spending 500,000, maybe 500 to $1 million a month on Facebook and Google ads. And they said, you're putting them on Amex, aren't you, to get the points? I was like, what? What? Points? Because I had not gone into getting credit cards. Because once I got out of the Hungry Jack's debts, all the credit cards gone, just back to that. And so I wasn't even thinking about, I'm going to put this on a credit card. I was thinking back to, I just pay cash now, right? And yeah, so I was like, he's like, no, you can get the points and this, that, and the other. I was like, shit. So I rang up Amex straight away, went out of that meeting, boop, 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 and I got and it was like, now I think you pay $1,750 a year for this Amex card that's made of metal. Yeah. It's cool. Like you can't break it. Yeah. And I just boom, straight away. Now here's the thing. Facebook and Google and Amazon don't charge you a merchant fee. So it's free to use your Amex card for their expenses. The points are racking up. So I was getting millions of points. Yep. To put it in perspective, that's a lot, right? I think I would have had now easily, look, it's been 6 figures plus, way 6 figures of monetary points, okay? Now, I don't go and use, so I'm using my business card for business expenses, which I can now claim, but I'm not using the points that I get to go buy other business expenses because I can't claim that. So I'm using the points to go and buy stuff I don't need
Like a Louis Vuitton,
like a Louis Vuitton
man bag.
like a Louis Vuitton man bag, and yeah, so just using the points to buy stuff I don't need, right? I would never. So that Louis Vuitton bag I've got now it's like $4.5 grand. I would never go and spend that sort of money on Louis Vuitton on a bag that I just like, and that's like my everyday bag. I just cruise around that, check my keys in it and wallet, whatever. But I've now spent. This is funny now because Paula and I never got wedding rings because we didn't have any money.
Yeah, because you were broke back then.
It's broke. And so when we literally got married at the registry office. There was no big fancy thing, but it was beautiful, right? It was just like our closest family, like mum and dad and sisters. That was kind of it, right? And so from there, we had no rings, and we said one day, we said when we make it through this and we become rich, we'll get the rings, because we're not going to settle for some shit ring. Yeah, because she'd already had her eye earmarked on a particular ring. I think it was like 20-something thousand. And so one day I've got these Amex points. I go into Brisbane City. I go into the arcade, some jeweler in there. I'm like, yeah, we want that ring. And I think I bought a couple of rings. Not for me, for her. And it's like, you take Amex? Like, yeah, well, great. Boom, all points. So her wedding ring, all of her handbags she's got, Prada and Louis and all that crap. My stuff. So all the luxury items that I can't claim and are just extravagant things, all on Amex points. So, but if you ask me about things that I really don't need that I still have spent money on, it would definitely be cars.
How much is your car collection?
So I have a car collection. My thing is Subaru WRX STIs. And for anyone listening who knows anything about Subarus, my claim to fame is I have a 22B. You don't even know what that is, do you?
I don't even know. I know a little bit because of you have talked to me.
Yeah, so 22B is a dream car of anyone who's interested in Subarus, and really for a lot of car collectors anyway. So the very short version is there's only about 420 odd produced in the world. It was 1998. It's a two-door, it's wide body, 2.2 litre, and highly, highly sought after, because around that time there was a culmination of things. Sega Rally games and PlayStation. Subaru had won 3 World Rally Championships under the name of Colin McRae. And Colin McRae then had the Sega games and the PlayStation games like Colin McRae Rally. So, and of course, Subaru WRXs were massive at the time because every guy wanted one. The criminals were driving them back then because they were so fast and they could corner so well. They were escaping the police. The police had to then go and buy WRXs to keep up. So all those things combined make this car highly, highly sought after. And I've recently just spent about $50,000 on like an overhaul of the car, all the undercarriage pulled out, all sort of redone, right? Wheels redone, brakes redone, beautiful, right? The undercarriage. And it's now valued at $400,000 for that car, just that car. The most I've seen one sell for is $1 million for a Subaru, right? That's how highly sought after they are. My car collection, which consists also probably, I think 4 or 5 at the moment, it would be close to probably only like 750, something like that. And then that's not including the AMG Merc or the BMW X5 thing.
Does that create a bunch of problems in terms of keeping the batteries alive and all this stuff?
It so does. Yeah, because I went and bought a commercial shed, which I call the showroom.
Just to keep the cars.
Just to keep the cars. Because that was my dream. I'm like, yeah, I'm going to have this just like a man cave and just have these cars just in here and just take them out whenever I want. Yeah. But then it became, you can't take them out wherever you want. And I'd hate driving. I would just refuse to drive them in the rain. So then for that eliminates all these other days. You know what I mean? So yeah, it is. It's funny that you mentioned that now because I saw this clip the other day and it's talked about the progression of an entrepreneur and it's sort of related it to cars. You start off with no car. Okay. You then move to and it said a Range Rover Sport. Then you move to a Ferrari and then you move to no car. You de-shed. Yeah, you get rid of things. Yeah, material things now become, you just don't want them anymore. And we talked earlier about the Rolex.
Just before we get into
Yeah.
that one, in my own progression, I went from no car walking to bicycle because I couldn't afford the public transport, and
Right.
then eventually it got to moped. That
Right.
was one of the best things
You're
I
like,
could
"Oh,
ever
my
have.
freedom's back."
I'm like, man, I don't have to pay parking. It cost me $5 to fill the tank,
Yeah.
and it lasts for over a week. This is perfect,
Yeah, it
and
is
I can get
perfect.
between cars.
Yeah.
So I get places
Quicker,
faster.
more efficient. Yeah.
And then I got a Ford Focus that cost me $800. All scratch, all crash, and
Yeah,
all this stuff
doesn't
because I bought
matter.
it from a friend. Didn't
Yeah,
care.
yeah.
Last me like 2 years or something.
Wow.
Yeah. So
did
I was
well.
like, there's some levels to get into that Range Rover before. Just wanted to clarify that.
Yeah.
So Rolex,
No
you
car,
came here today.
moped. Yeah. Then
You came here today. We were talking about my watch, and then I told you, "Oh, I'm waiting for a Rolex," and then you told me you had a story.
So the story with the Rolex is I have dreamed of having a Rolex for decades. And I think for most people too, it's the pinnacle of luxury, certainly within watches. And it sort of has this status with it too, right? And so that was on my wall. I had a picture on the wall of a Rolex. Yeah.
I have to show you this now that you're saying that.
Is
Do you
that Submariner?
GMT Master 2.
GMT Master. Okay. Nice. Yeah.
Just for
Very
you to
universal
know. Yeah.
wearing watch. Yeah, beautiful. Now, just so you want to know, Daytona. Yeah, white face stainless steel.
Yeah,
That would be my dream.
Yeah.
Yeah, white face
They're
stainless steel.
solid. They're nice.
And so, and I remember actually wanting one of those back when I was DJing about 15 years ago. Yeah. And I thought, fuck, I'm going to get one of them one day. And back then they were cheap. I think they were like 15 grand compared to now, right?
To now.
And so anyway, in recent years, I've had this watch on the wall. And then a couple of years ago, I was like, I can buy this watch. Let me go and research it and find someone. So I go down to the Rolex dealer.
The Rolex, yeah.
I'm like, I'm here. I've been waiting for a long time. I've been waiting for decades. I'm here now. I'd like the watch. Yeah. And they're like, oh, we don't have that watch. I said, that's okay. You ordered me one in. I had no idea. And they're like, no, we can't order you one. I'm like, what? What are you talking about? What do you mean you can't order one? Well, you'd have to go on a waiting list, sir. Okay, well, how longer? We don't even know. How long. I'm like, what do you mean? Like, you don't know, like, in weeks? No, we don't know in years. I'm like, what? How is this? I said, and then I start thinking, what else have you got? What else is in this freaking showroom? Oh, we've got this other one here. Which ones I don't really want. I'm like, okay, all right. So I sort of walk away from that, and I'm thinking, I'm sort of a bit disillusioned by the whole thing. And I then contact a friend who I know has a Rolex. Do you know someone?
Yeah, that was my question to you today.
Yeah. Do you know someone? He goes, yeah, I know the guy who works in a Rolex dealership over in LA or something. Great. Can you get me one? And he's like, yeah. So he comes back and he said, yeah, I can get you one. He paid the money, and I forget how much it even was. It was like, pay the money. No, he'll let me know when it comes in. I'm like, cool. About 2 weeks passes, 3 weeks maybe. He can't get you that watch. I was like, what? What happened though, Nelson, was in my mind, I had already pulled the trigger to buy the watch. So I felt like, oh, that's done. I'd moved on with my life. I didn't need to get the watch anymore because it was coming. Mm-hmm. When I then get told, you now can't have the watch, but emotionally and psychologically, I'd already bought it.
Yeah.
Even though I didn't have it on my arm.
Yeah. Now it hurts.
Well, no, something else happened.
Yeah.
I'm like, I fucking need it anymore.
Yeah, right. Okay.
I don't need the watch anymore. I've already kind of had it.
Yeah.
Because it was, and this is the thing with what I don't know if people find this too. It's like, it's the thrill of the chase, whether it's the car, whether it's the watch, whether it's the house. And then once you get it, you're like, oh, I don't really feel different. I've sort of got that now. I've got that possession. You know, like one of the other things I always wanted was a C63 AMG Mercedes. I bought that in December. And it was the thrill for years. And you had on the wall, want the C63, it's my dream car. I love it. Got it. And now it's like, oh, it's my daily driver. And, just like, oh, yeah, okay. Like, I still look at it and like, I love that car. But I'm like, oh, what's next? What's the next thrill of the chase that I'm going to want? But there's also been another realization in recent weeks for me too. Now, I talk about no car, Range Rover, the progression, Ferrari, and then no car. And now I'm at like, maybe I need to get rid of my cars, the collection. Like, do I really need that? Do I really need luxury watches? No. Do I, and sort of getting rid of material things. It's another whole state. And just having Bitcoin. I'm just going to own Bitcoin and that's it. And that's like the digital or entrepreneurial nomad. You may have heard sort of phrases like that where you're just free. And other people like Luke Belmar, you may have seen him online. Mm-hmm. He's made a lot of money through crypto. And he talks about, I don't own any houses, right? Doesn't need to own a fucking house. He's got tens and tens of millions just of crypto and cash and things like that. And so that's a really interesting concept to move through that phase now into this new one. I'll let you know if I ever sell the 22B though.
How much money do you have in crypto?
I've got a couple million.
And how much have you put into crypto?
Probably at 1.5. Yeah, actually, 1.5-ish. Yeah, so I'm only up about 500 grand in crypto. But I've put more, as we've sort of come through 23, I've increased how much I put in. Now, I was putting so much money into the house renovation, which was like $1 million into the house because it went way over budget. And, it's our sort of like our dream house for now. Everything's perfect in hindsight. I would have been much better off putting that $1 million at the time through 23 into crypto because now it'd be well up because that was during the lows. Yeah, but I also had a family to think of too, and they didn't want to keep living in the other house. They want to move to the new house and have a wife to think about, right? And I think it would have been a much harder discussion to have with her. Hey, babe, we're going to stay in this modest house, nice house. Yeah, 4-bedroom, 2-bathroom pool house, but a modest house in the suburbs on a small block. We're going to stay here for longer before I get you your next house. And we're going to put it all into crypto. She would have been like, what?
What?
No way.
Yeah.
But I guess it's a much easier sell now because I can say, look, you've got the house. It's beautiful. It's on like a 1-acre block. It has views out to the ocean and the hinterlands and everything. And now I can say, now we're putting this extra money into crypto. And she's like, yeah, do it. Because we're in a partnership too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, we've been together for ages and we're on this life journey together. So I can't just go and make decisions I can come with, hey, this is what I think.
Yeah.
But you don't want to get to the point where she's resenting you for doing something that perhaps she didn't want to do. So the great thing about our relationship is she really trusts me. And the biggest turning point I think was when I went into the Amazon training program, right? And all through that time, she was like, yes, I trust you. $20,000 for that mentorship program. Yeah, I trust you. And then of course, the trust is really built up because I can go $40 million and here's the house and here's the cars and here's the whatever, money in the bank, the whole thing, which gives her the confidence now for, hey, look, if I think this is now the next thing, and keep in mind too, Nelson, like she doesn't research crypto. She doesn't do Amazon. She looks after the Hungry Jack store. So we've kind of all got our part in the wealth creation strategy. So now we have this diversification, as I said earlier, that's what I'm now focused on. Hungry Jacks. Ultimately will be crypto once I sell out. But as cash flow wise is also online sales. I then had a car business thing that I had invested in going on as well. So that was coming in. And so if one of those things sort of goes down, we're not going to be back on the dump pile again.
We're getting to the end of the episode, and I just want to ask you a couple more questions. How old are you?
I don't want to say. No, 44.
44. Would you trade all your money to go back to being 20 and have nothing?
No, I wouldn't, because I'm happy with where I'm at. And everything that's happened in my life has led me to this. I know people say this all the time. It's such a cliche, right? You know, now going through the shit of the Hungry Jacks and the Roadworks, you know, there were times there where we were like looking at each other saying, should we just go bankrupt now? Because I just do not see a way out of this. We are going down every single month into this debt spiral. So is that the answer? And we're like, no, there is another way. There is another way. So we just kept going, refinance this, refinance that, pay off this, pay off that, go into Amazon, do Uber, do selling boxes, everything, just to eventually come out on top. And no, I don't think I would do that because my life's been good.
If you could go back and speak to your 30-year-old and
30-year-old?
Yeah. And give him 3 pieces of advice that are going to help him accelerate his journey to wealth and just building the life of his dreams and a life by design and being full control of this crazy human experience.
First thing is get into mentorship by somebody else, who's ahead of the game, who's in the position where you want to be, in the niche you want to be in. I would also say, don't sell your properties. Whatever it costs, you do not sell them, because that's probably a mistake looking back now that we had to sell some. I know circumstances come up, but I would strongly suggest you don't. And the other thing is find your life partner. And be aligned, because you can make a lot more things happen faster if you're together on the same journey and you have the same morals and values and you're heading in the same direction.
I love that, especially the last one is resonating a lot with at the point that I am in my journey, that I can fully testify to this and confirm this, that finding the right partner is a crucial step for you to actually get to where you're trying to go 3 times faster.
Yes.
It's crazy how much you can quantum leap if you have someone next to you that is fully on board with the mission that you're on.
Now, I said that in the sense of, mentorship I could have done sooner. Property I could have held on to, but I did find my life partner. So it's really advice to people out there. I've got that and I'm absolutely blessed.
Yeah, no, and I love that you say that one, because I didn't have a partner until I was 28. So before that, I've never had a girlfriend or anything. I was just, and I'm glad everything happened that way, because it helped me figure out what exactly I was looking for in a partner and create boundaries and a bunch of other stuff that has allowed my relationship to flourish and be what it is today. Because I find that it's very rare these days to have something like you had, that you guys came up together from a very young age and, it was almost meant to be, and you guys are here
and the
crushing
thing
it
too,
together,
I want to say as well, is because we started with nothing. We were teenagers. Didn't have anything. We had nothing.
Yes.
We then had something. We then lost that thing. We went back into like near bankruptcies, and then we've come out this other end with more money. Right through that whole process, we never ever said, "Oh, I think we should separate," right? Because it didn't matter. The money didn't matter. We were together because we wanted to be together, and the money up and down. And hey, look, touch wood, we could lose everything in 10 years. Be like, oh, well, we'll just rebuild. We're not going to be like, oh, we have to now be divorced.
Yeah, that makes total sense. Throughout this entire conversation, most people will be listening to the kind of numbers that you mentioned, the kind of money that you've been able to make, your car collection, all this cool stuff, the freedom that you have now. And they'll be like, wow, that's impossible for me. I could never do that. And a lot of these people are creative entrepreneurs. And they're early in the journey within business and entrepreneurship. What would you say to the ones out there that are very hungry, but they just don't know what they need to do? It feels like there's such a big gap in between the place that you are and the place that they are currently. They might be going through some struggle right now. Some of them might be at rock bottom. What would you say to them?
Well, the first thing is they've got to get around the right people, right? Because I don't want to say it. I don't want to say your network is your net worth. I don't want to say that, okay? I'm not going to say your network is your net worth. I refuse to say it. But it's more than that too. It's about being around the right people who give you the encouragement, who are not negative in your life. Because a lot of these people too that I'm finding is they want to succeed. They want to do really well, but someone, whether it could be their family, it could be their close friends, they want to hold them back because they don't want them to succeed. They want them to stay back in their potential misery, right? So that unfortunately, you're going to have to let go of those people, and sort of, I'm not saying let go of your whole family, but maybe don't see them as much and don't take advice from family. I hear this too, where the dad will say, son, you've got to go get a 9-to-5 job or whatever. Or he might say to the dad, I'm going to go start this new business. Oh, I wouldn't do that. It's a bit too risky. The kid's freaking 20. He's got the rest of his life to make mistakes, right? I only really catapulted my wealth, let's call it, in the last 5 years. So really from when I was, late 30s. So if you're 20, mate, you need to go for it. There's just so much opportunity out there. And if you fail and you fail and you fail and you fail all the way through your 20s, that is the time to fail, because you probably got no kids, you probably don't have any other major commitments, and you just need to get out there and do it. So get off your butt. Yeah, I believe in you. Yeah, I believe in young people, and I know that they can do it, and they're in the perfect position to do so. And if they're not sure of which direction to take, then do whatever they can and go and get a coach or a mentor, at whatever level that is. Maybe that is an online program. For someone who wants to come and have a mentoring session with me, it can range from $1,000 a month right through to over $3,000 a month. But there are programs out there and mentors out there that have an online system. For example, Grant Cardone. You can tap into him for probably like $99 a month. You can't tell me that you cannot afford $99 a month to just be exposed to the things that guy knows. And he knows a lot, right from digital things to property. Digital sales, digital marketing, right through to actual physical property. He's a wealth of knowledge and he's giving it away.
Where can people find you, Matt?
Thank you, Nelson.
And how can they even work with you as well?
Well, they can find me on all social medias. I'm Matthew Fraser on Instagram, on TikTok now, which I'm now a TikTok sensation, on Facebook, on YouTube, which is going to be blowing up very, very soon. We've already hit some benchmarks there. And of course, they can reach me at matthewfraser.com.au. There's my website. They can contact me through there, but they can also contact me through any of the social media platforms. I'm very, very heavy into Instagram, so that's probably an easy one.
You also have a bit of a step guide to make 8 figures?
I do. So what I decided to do was, there was a lot of people out there who wanted to know how I was able to get to 8 figures a year and even now $40 million in sales. So I had to I hadn't put it in paper form. So I just sat down one day and said, okay, what is exactly the steps that I did? And I put it down into an 8-step blueprint. And now I'm giving that away for free. So all people need to do is click on one of the links. Maybe it's in the show notes here. It's also available on my YouTube and also Instagram and other pages. They can click on that link and I will then send them the 8 steps to 8 figures blueprint, absolutely free. And they'll also get to be a part of my very, very exclusive community as well.
You are a legend, Matthew. Thank you for coming today on the podcast. I'm pretty sure people will get a lot of value from this episode, and I could be talking to you honestly for days. We're gonna have to do around 2 and 3, because honestly, like, this is just the surface of who you are and what you do and your knowledge and all your experience as an entrepreneur. So we're definitely gonna have to do this again a few times so we can make sure that we tap deeper into everything we cover today. If you enjoyed this episode and you want us to continue to bring legends like Matt, make sure to subscribe on YouTube, leave us a 5-star review on Spotify, Apple Podcasts. It means the world, and it really helps attract people like him to be here bringing all their expertise and knowledge with you guys. Follow me along every social media platforms at Creator Nelson, at Creator Grid, and find all the resources and the links down in the description below. I will see you guys on the next episode. Good vibes for everyone.
Love your work.
My goal for this podcast is to help 1 million creative entrepreneurs make more money, have more impact, and create their ultimate reality. The best way for you to support this mission is by sharing the podcast with anyone you think will find it valuable. Leave a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, and follow us on all social media platforms at The Creative Grid and at Creator Nelson. I will see you at the top.